All right, so this is a little different type of video, I think. Instead of giving a tone for tone review of these three amps or any one of them, I want to try and point out some very different things about them and help you make a decision on which one you'd like to buy. How nice that Orange has made so many varieties of their killer OR15. They have the Brent Hinds, they have the Rocker Terror 15, they have the Dark Series, they have what's the other guy they have a signature model of? Anyway, they really did a nice job putting a lot of different tones out that are subtly different, but different enough to really be appreciated. So what we have today is just first, we pretty much are going to highlight the tones on the Brent Hinds. It's my favorite of these three. It's just, I play predominantly heavier rock, but it does clean up real nice. But a clean channel to me is not a jazz type channel. It's one where there's still a little breakup and I roll off the guitar volume. It's still nice and bright, and that's usually clean enough for me. But they do have, the two have a clean channel, but I'll have some more opinions and thoughts on that later. But what I did was get a real nice rock channel, rock, hard rock, crunch on the Brent Hinds, and then I put the knobs in the exact same place on the Rocker 15 to show you how different those two are. And then went back to the Brent Hinds signature Orange and started pushing it down. So we have a nice crunchy tone, then less crunch, and then still on the dirty tone, we have a tone that's, for the most part, nice and clean enough for me to really enjoy, and edge a breakup and put a little pedal on it, and it's very nice, in my opinion. So, and then there is a clean channel at the end too, where I use a clean boost pedal to brighten up the channel some. And I'll just play a simple tune on the clean channel. You'll hear the switch click probably. You'll definitely notice the tone get brighter. But, and then I'll come back with some thoughts and opinions when we're done. But I looked at dozens of amps or videos on YouTube when I was curious about these, and I was surprised when I got them in-house here that they were as different as they were, because the differences on YouTube didn't come through. All right, so that's the format. I'll be back at the end with some thoughts and opinions. Coolio. On all the tones today, incidentally, were with the vintage V100, which I ended up keeping. I sold the gold top Epiphone just because when it came down to it, the tone and feel of the vintage was a lot more fun to play. It sounded better to me. The pickups are just great, really balanced. Not too. There was a little bit of a mid hump with the Epiphone, and it was heavier. And I don't like heavy guitars that are too heavy. I mean, anyway, I nods some props to the vintage V100. Super nice guitar. It stays in tune very nicely. Ton of fun to play. Lighter, and the pickup sound, I think, more vintage. Those PAFs sound a lot more vintage than the new ProBucker with all the electronic push-pulls and whatnot. And if you want, splitting a humbucker never really sounds like a single coil anyway, in my opinion. If you want a single coil guitar, save a few more pennies and get yourself a Tele or a Strat style guitar. Anyway, love the vintage stuff. So it's like these two were offspring of this one, in my opinion. First, the OR15 covers a lot of ground, very nice clean channel, and it gets real dirty, very dirty. Lots of distortion available here, but on the higher distortion tones, it does not get as tight and crunchy as the Brent Hinds Terror. If you want tight, crunchy with a lot of thump, Brent Hinds is the way to go. What Orange has done is figured out a way to capture low and mid-driven tones in an envelope of thumpy crunch. The tone stays tight even when the overdrive is pretty low. When the distortion levels turn down really low, you still have a nice thumpy tightness to it. Whereas a lot of other amps, when you get the overdriven tone down low, it sounds like paper ripping. The speaker sounds like it's got this paper tearing sound, especially in the decay of the tone. There's this. It doesn't sound real good. That's not the case with these. So the OR15 is nice, covers a lot of ground, one channel. The clean channel on this, well, when you clean up the one channel, it's beautifully thick and rich. But for the hard rock tightness, that kind of stuff, big heavy crunch and distorted tones, I go to the Brent Hinds. Plus, this has a bit of hiss to it. The OR15 is hissy, like an EVH LBX, if you're familiar with those. It's got that same kind of hiss. It's on all the time. Or the recent Egnator Rebel 20 that I had up, it hissed like that before doing the effects loop mod on that amp that quieted it way down. All right. Now, the Rocker 15 Terror, you should be able to see in the video, is kind of the front half of the Orange. This is the back half of the Orange, but it's super tight. The Rocker 15 is a great amp if you are predominantly clean and light rock. If that's your gig, you're going to love the Rocker 15. Again, even with the lower driven tones, the richness, the thickness, and the tightness is still there. This is really good. If you want a clean player, this is so thick and fat. It's tons of fun. Trying to play clean with this Brent Hinds is a little harder because you're on the dirty channel and you've rolled the drive way down low. But you do end up with a nice clean, for me. I like it. But it does thin out quite a bit. It really doesn't thicken up until the overdrive starts to come up. Then you're going to start turning this bass knob down. If the overdrive knob is left of center, you're going to want this bass kind of cranked up. As soon as the overdrive knob gets up into this territory, you're going to start turning that bass down. The mid structure on these amps is fantastic. Lots of coverage, lots of range. And one thing you'll notice in the video, this amp is consistently darker than the Brent Hinds from the get-go. Maybe you'll see that. I had the treble all the way up on the Rocker 15, and still it wasn't bright enough to me. Maybe I'm losing part of my hearing, but I would want to run some sort of boost pedal to brighten this one up all the time. Whereas the Brent Hinds is plenty bright. I can run the treble back here and still get a tone I like. So I just really like that. My my preferences on the Brent Hinds were with the EQ almost kind of centralized, and I was getting some good tones. Now, the clean channel on either one is a lot darker than I thought, even watching the YouTube videos. I would have to run a clean boost if I was to use the natural channel on either one. Maybe it was designed that way. This is my first time I've had to even think about an always on clean boost pedal, which turned out to be kind of fun. It added a new dimension to what I'm used to, things I could do to change tone. It really is necessary if you're using the natural, but a lot of players have a clean boost on, like the Exotic or any other that you like. Whether they're on the natural clean channel or a dirty channel, they always have a clean boost on, just to give the front end of the amp a little higher signal. So that was kind of interesting. And then you just have to find the right boost pedal when you want to lead out and things like that. So maybe they designed it that way, but unless you're playing a Strat or a Tele, this natural channel is going to be, I would think, way too dark for everybody. And that didn't really come through on the YouTube. Last thing I'd say is trying to get a really saturated tone, like a lead tone on the Marshall, is really hard to beat. It's so saturated that it smooths out. It's very forgiving when you boost the Marshall lead tone. These amps are so articulate that they keep you honest. They're going to point out some flaws in your playing. And when you use a boost pedal, because they're able to capture such great tones with lower levels of distortion, I didn't need to crank the distortion. I could keep the distortion lower, and because the bass and the mids are so tight and focused, it sounds a lot angrier and dirtier than it is, which is a great trick. But when you boost a lead, when you use a boost pedal, instead of like with my OCD on the Marshall, I have the gain all the way down and the volume 3/4 up. I hit that and it sounds great. When boosting one of these amps, because you're getting a really good dirty tone with the drive down, you have to turn the drive up on your boost pedal of choice. I was using the Speed Demon by Gus G to boost these with, and I ended up having to run my gain up about 11 o'clock and then the volume up about 2 o'clock. So instead of having the gain all the way down in just volume, I had to turn the gain up as well. And that worked great. It didn't oversaturate or compress the signal. It just turned it into that searing type lead tone, but still keeps you honest, because the articulation in these amps is fantastic. The effects loops are great, and I'm really happy. I don't know why. I played orange amps in shops for years, and every time I played one, I just didn't get it. But for some reason, I sure get it now. Maybe my tonal, my desires are changing. Instead of maybe years ago, everything I wanted to hear was really scooped out. And these have a very strong, prominent mid-range, but it sounds great. Lower tunings, Strats, Teles, very versatile. But I'm gonna stick with the Brent Hinds. I think that's fantastic. Nice quiet amp. Also, it's got headroom and bedroom switch on the back, and then half and full power here. So while you do lose a little of the bass when you're playing in bedroom mode, the overall tone is still pretty pleasing, and you can rock out, unlike with the Marshall, that on half power, being that it's a 40-watt amp, when you put it on half power mode, when you turn it down too low, it just really gets thin and fizzy. This not so much, so very nice. I'm very happy with it. Good deals on reverb. These two came from Guitar Center, so I'm going to be able to take those two back. And now I've just got my eyes on a Mesa 525, and then honestly, I think I'm going to be done. And then I'm going to start selling off some stuff, and just keep the keepers. All right, well, I hope that was helpful in some of you looking around. I know these have been around a long time already, but those are some interesting thoughts, opinions, and ideas I had on getting them in-house and playing them for you. So take care, hit the sub button if you like, share it up, and we'll see you next time. Old Guy Jammin' is out.